Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Today I'm going to talk about if clauses. So if clauses are used in a variety of different sentence patterns. We use them to do a variety of different things as well. So today I'm going to give kind of an introduction into a few cases where you can use if clauses. So let's get started. Okay. First, I want to introduce two basic patterns for using if clauses. If clauses can come at the beginning of a sentence and can be followed by a main clause. I'll explain this a little more later. So we can begin with an if statement and end with a main statement, or the opposite is also possible. First a main clause followed by the if clause. Both are okay. A few things I want to talk about today are how to use some of these sentences. We can use if clause sentences, these kinds of patterns, for making plans and planning questions. So by this I mean questions about plans. And all of these include a specific condition introduced by the if statement. So I'll explain a little more in just a moment. So we can use these for making plans, talking about plans, asking questions about plans. We can use these for talking about our future activities, so potential activities in the future. We can use it for talking about past potential, so things different in the past, an action done differently in the past, and the potential different outcome in the future. This is a very complex grammar point, I think, but this is very, very useful. Okay. Finally, we can use them to talk about advice and to give recommendations as well, to ask for and give recommendations actually. So this is a very, very useful kind of sentence, and I want to share a couple ways that you can use these, as well as a couple grammar points inside the sentences, especially in the main clause, that I hope you can use to make these kinds of statements and to make these kinds of questions. So let's take a look. Okay, first I want to look at if clauses. So if clauses, they begin with this if statement. So we use an if clause to express a condition meaning some possibility or some potential. So for example, if it's sunny tomorrow, if the weather is sunny tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So we use if at the beginning of the if clause to introduce our condition. That's going to lead us into the main clause. So in our main clause, the main clause can express a result, a potential result. It can express a recommendation. It can express a question. So there are a lot of different things we can do with the main clause and a lot of different types of grammar we can use. So I want to look at a few examples here. Let's look at this first sentence, which I already talked about. This one. If it's sunny tomorrow, for example, I'll go to the beach. I'll go to the beach. Here I have my if expression, my if clause. The condition is the weather. If it's sunny tomorrow, I have here I'll go to the beach. You'll note that I've used I'll, I will, because in this case it sounds like the speaker has just made the decision. Maybe you've seen the video we did about the difference between will and going to. So when we use will, it's often used in times when we've just made a decision during the conversation. So here, if it's sunny tomorrow, I'll go to the beach. Please be careful, however. Do not use will in this sentence, in this part of the sentence. For example, some people say, if it will be sunny tomorrow, it's not correct. We cannot use will here. We need to use will in the main clause. If it's sunny, I'll go to the beach. Please be cautious here. So meaning, this sentence means if the weather is nice tomorrow, my plan, I just decided, is to go to the beach. Let's look at one more sentence that is similar. If you pass the test, here is my condition. If you pass the test, here, you'll get a certification. You'll get. So once more, you can see I've used will here in the contracted form. You will get a certification if you pass the test. So keep in mind, as I said before, we can swap. We can reverse the sentence patterns and the sentence meaning remains the same. So just please be careful. If you're using will, make sure it's in your main clause, not in your if clause. Let's take a look at something a little bit different. Here I have, if we got approval for the project, if we got. So here you'll see it's not the present tense. If we got approval for the project, this is the past participle form here. If we got approval for the project, we would begin on Monday. So this is a potential situation. This is a situation, you can see I've used the past participle here and would in the main clause. By changing the tense of my verb, I change the potential of the situation. This is a sentence we might use when making a proposal. So if we got approval for the project, in the future, in theory, so meaning in possibility, this is not certain, it's not in my control now, but if this were the case, if I got the approval for the project, we would begin on Monday. This is a future potential situation, something that is potentially, I'm potentially capable, or we are potentially able to do, but it has not been decided yet. In these cases, we need to use would in the main clause. Okay, so let's take a look at the next sentence here, similar to the previous sentence I talked about. So the sentence, the if clause here is, if I hired you for the job. You can see the verb here is also different, as we talked about in the previous sentence. If I hired you for the job, you would get $50,000 a year. So once more, this is a future potential sentence, and we know that because of the verbs that are chosen. If I hired you, we use the past participle here. We need to apply would in the main clause to show the future potential of this situation. So please be careful. We've talked about two types of if clause statements now. Let's go to yet one more example of how to use this grammar. This is a past potential and a resulting possible outcome from a past situation. So let's look at the if clause first. So if they had left the house earlier, they would have been on time. So here once more, you can see I've got if they had left the house earlier. If they had left, I've got had here. So we need to use have or had in the past tense here, plus the verb, and then again we use this would have been on time. We have created a more complex grammar sentence. This shows if something had been different in the past, a different outcome would have resulted. We need to use would plus our have been, for example, in this case. Let's take a look at one more sentence. If I had studied a little more, here's our verb phrase. If I had studied, so I did not study very much. If I had studied a little more, I would have passed the test. Here I've mentioned too, might is also possible. Maybe the speaker doesn't know for sure the definite outcome in this case. So we can use would to express certainty, might to express a lower level of certainty. I might have passed the test, I would have passed the test. And again, we have the verb have, and in this case, passed the test as well. So you can see the grammar becomes progressively more complex in these situations. The last ones I want to talk about, just two more, are recommendations and questions. So you can use an if clause to introduce your condition, like if you go to Paris, for example. Here, in your main clause, you can give a recommendation, like you should, in this case I've used should, you should visit the Louvre, or go to the Louvre, or try some food, something like that. You can use a recommendation expression in your main clause here. The final thing I want to talk about is making a question in your main clause. For example, if it rains this weekend, what do you want to do? So this is a situation where you're looking for the listener's opinion. What do you want to do? You can use an expression like a question. What do you want to do? What do you think we should do? in your main clause to do that. Okay, so those are a few different ways that you can use if clauses to create a variety of different expressions in different statements. So we've talked quickly about a few examples of each of these, so give them a try. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to try out a few of these sentences, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Check us out at EnglishClass101.com for more good stuff as well. Thanks very much for watching this episode, and I will see you again soon. Bye!